Welcome to Get Up. I'm Ryan Smith in for Greeny. You know who I'm talking about, y'all.
Do I love it? No.
How about that?
Everyone wants to laugh, and this is worth laughing about.
Acho, man.
Ooh.
Does Kyrie want to be in LA right now?
I don't know what Kyrie wants.
Go figure.
This is kind of silly.
I don't know.
This is awesome stuff.
PK will never throw away a peanut.
Never say never.
Not going to happen.
I'm going to break that rule. I'm going to say never.
We learned so much on this show.
It looks like Pete McConville dancing back there, one of our producers.
Now you're not going to be on Get Up anymore.
I think Pete McConville wishes he could dance like this.
Put some boxing gloves on and let's see what happens.
Acho's the fun police.
That is hilarious. I just want to see Greeny put some gloves on. Ryan, you can box Greeny.
I'm not boxing Greeny.
Whoever wins gets the show.
If that happened, Greeny wouldn't be back, and he's got to be back.
Fun week, and could you end it in any better way? The Woj bomb yesterday in the 2 o'clock hour, and here we are. A decision that could transform the NBA for years to come. Kevin Durant requesting a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. Nets general manager Sean Marks is working with KD, with his business manager Rich Kleiman on some possible destinations. And we have Wendy, we have Tim, and for the first time, Jalen Rose. We haven't heard you weigh in on this at all, so let me start right there. Jay, what is your reaction to everything that's transpired?
My initial reaction is it takes courage to be happy, regardless of the relationship, whether it's family, friends, whether it's somebody you dating, whether it's somebody you in business with. So many people woke up this morning and in dysfunctional situations that they can walk away from, but they don't have the courage to. Kevin Durant was looking around. He was like, I know I was the person as the best player that was the lead domino for Kyrie and I to be a dynamic duo as we got together in 12-22 of 20. Then a month later, they took it a step further. James Harden forced his way out of Houston, quit on Houston, came in camp out of shape, quit on Houston to go to the Nets. Then we had what everybody deemed was going to be the greatest big three since Miami did it with Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James, and people were already counting championships. They only played around 20 or so games together. But here's to me where it got tricky, when Kyrie didn't get vaccinated. Because what ends up happening now is it puts more pressure on KD to stay healthy. It puts more pressure on James Harden to look at KD like, wait a minute. Y'all had me force my way out of Houston, but your man ain't getting vaccinated? So then James Harden quit on the Nets. He started dogging it. Hey, Hannah, there's footage in Detroit this past year where the ball rolled into the backcourt. And James Harden let the ball roll to his feet, never bent over to pick it up. When a Piston player went and dunked the ball, and I looked at the sideline, and nobody said nothing to Harden. Not a coach, not another player. When I said that, I was like, this ain't going to work. And then so you graduate the story more, and the Nets become the only team not to win a playoff game. See, last year, KD was so very terrific in the playoffs against the Bucks. Even though they lost, people kind of gave them a moral victory, saying if they would have had a healthy Harden, if they would have had a healthy Kyrie, they would have won. But that didn't matter because the Bucks went on to win the championship. So now all of a sudden you get into this offseason, the Nets look back at the last 3 years and they're like, you know what? We're not going to take back our organization. When we brought them to us, Kyrie said, coaching ain't really important to us. So what did they do? They didn't go hire one of the greatest coaches. They wouldn't hire Steve Nash because he could do a really good job and he was familiar and he's an all-time great player. But also that made the players comfortable. And when you watch them play against the Nets, you notice Ime Udoka can challenge Jason Tatum. He can challenge Jaylen Brown. Kyrie wasn't going to be challenged by Steve Nash. KD knows that too. So when Kyrie opts back in, KD's like, I'm out of here, period. And so the crazy thing is not he's just breaking up with the Nets. He's also breaking up with Kyrie. This is one of the most fascinating things in the history of the NBA, to see an all-time great player like KD go to the Warriors, win back-to-back finals MVPs, lead the Warriors so he can be the best player leading a championship situation with Kyrie Irving. They have to watch two of their former teams play in the finals, and then the Warriors win it without you. That has to be the final straw for KD. This is fascinating.
Masterful layout of the history of the Nets in just a few minutes. Jalen, appreciate that. And Wendy, can you add a little bit of perspective onto what Jalen said?
Yeah, I think it was not just Durant, it was also the organization. And
Giving too much power to Durant and KD?
Yes, they certainly did. And, remember the landscape when Durant and Kyrie went there. There was a bunch of teams that had salary caps. The Lakers were trying to get these guys. The Clippers were trying to get these guys. The Knicks were trying to get these guys. You weren't just competing, to get their attention. You were competing with all these other teams. And so the deal that they made, which was not only are we going to sign you to huge contracts, we're going to give you influence, is what helped them get the deal done. But right from the very start, it was built on a sand foundation, especially knowing that Kyrie hadn't proven that he could be an effective leader. And really, Kyrie was the leader. The crazy thing is that even though Durant is the better player and is in position to lead,
right,
Kyrie was kind of the lead voice. And it could have worked, but it was always suspect. And when Steve Nash took that job, there were people in the league going, wow, Steve, it could be great, it could be awful. And they knew that going in. But they bet on the talent, and the talent let them down.
Yeah, what was so tantalizing was that talent. Even in the short stretches we saw, they were favorites to win the NBA title because they were so unstoppable in those rare times when they were on the court together.
And I think Jalen's point about the Celtics and Ime Udoka is really interesting because let's go back to last playoffs, right? Jalen talked about the series that Kevin had against the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's go back to look at when they played against the Boston Celtics. They destroyed the Celtics in the first round. It's the one time all three guys are really healthy. And at that point, it looked like they were going to be this super team, right? The Celtics, right after that series, they'd have Brad Stevens go up to be president of basketball operations. Danny Ainge moves on, and they hire Ime Udoka. When you look at what the Boston Celtics did this year, going to the NBA Finals, Ime Udoka coming in and having accountability up and down the roster, challenging his best players publicly, repeatedly, throughout the season. Early in the year, there were a lot of people going, man.
Day one, he was on them.
What is Ime Udoka doing? He's challenging these players. It's not going to work out.
And it took a while for it to work out.
But it came together. But it came together, and that team had a great season. And that accountability Jalen was talking about was there for the Celtics from top to bottom. And with the Nets, from day one, with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, it was about what they wanted, and it was never about what the team wanted. And I think that dynamic there, and especially when you have the Nets come back and get blown out by the Celtics this year, it's just a fascinating dichotomy in how those two teams are set up and where they both are now.
Yeah, and Jay, you look at the places that KD wants to go, and talking about coaches and strong coaches, Eric Spoelstra in Miami, Monty Williams with the Suns. Where would you like to see KD go?
Well, I am a Detroit native, but, that's another subject for another day. But what I will say is this. If I'm the Nets, and Wendy, you know this, both of you guys know this, I ain't rushing, Hannah. I'm not panicking. KD's under contract for the next 3 or 4 years. I am not rushing this deal. I know he wants to go to Miami. I know he wants to go to the Suns. But I'm going to get the best deal. And if that deal happens in July, if that deal happens in February, that's when we'll work on it. Because guess what's going to happen when they trade KD and or Kyrie? The Nets are going to be irrelevant. They were already the B team in their own market with these guys on the roster. They won the same amount of playoff games as the New York Knicks did this year. So for Kevin Durant, any team could be a great fit because he's a dynamic player. But one of the things Tim also just mentioned, one of the lead dominoes for KD going to the Warriors, besides they were a turnkey team that won 73 games before he arrived, he clearly said he didn't want to be the leader. He said he wanted to focus on playing basketball, having fun doing so. Well, now when you get to the Nets, that responsibility lies on you and Kyrie because you're the guys that have the championship pedigree. And let's say a name that hasn't been mentioned just yet. Ben Simmons. How did he pass a physical? So let me get this right. I've been traded 150 times. How does a guy get to a team, not play, have surgery, and pass a physical? That also has to be something that KD's looking at. Like, wait a minute, we don't even know what we're going to get from Ben Simmons. And of course, the Nets social posted a picture of Ben Simmons working out yesterday.
Yep.
Right before KD's announcement about wanting to be traded. You can't make this up.
No, you can't. And by the way, Ben Simmons may not be on the roster either. I mean, is he still valuable to them really without those scorers, KD and Kyrie? And also, there's a whole list of superstars they can't trade for as long as this guy is on the roster. Really quickly, Wendy, before we leave, how complicated is this? Jay said, take your time. They're almost going to have to, right?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to end up. It could obviously be a two-team deal, but I think it's trending towards it being a multi-team trade where either the Nets or a team that's going to trade players stuff to the Nets is going to go out and improve the offer. And that's why the Nets should possibly wait. But I don't know. It could happen in the next few days. It could take 2 weeks. But I will say this. Jalen said that, they're going to be irrelevant. I honestly believe this. That the billionaire owner, Joe Tsai, would rather have a team that plays hard, that he's proud to own, that wins 40 games and fights for the play-in. They would have a team that has way more talent that he's not proud to be a part of. And I think he would maybe enjoy going back to before Durant and Kyrie were there and they were the feisty team that was making the 8th seed.
He hasn't loaned a team for very long, so we'll see how long he feels about that if they are
Yeah,
going to win 40 games
but you can own a team with all the talent in the world. If you don't get it done on the floor,
true.
that is no fun.
And to Jalen's point, 3 years ago, he and I sat here and did Get Up for a week, the first week of free agency, and we waited all week to see what happened with Kawhi Leonard, and the whole league stopped. And I think for right now, we're in a pause where until this Kevin Durant deal gets done, everybody's waiting to see what happens because, as we all know, everybody, as Jalen said, is going to be in the mix trying to see